Most men miss the moment a woman becomes emotionally interested, not because she's hiding it perfectly, but because they're looking for the wrong signals. Here's the paradox. The more a woman genuinely likes you, the more likely she is to control what she reveals. Strange, isn't it? Why would someone hide the very thing they want you to notice? Because attraction and vulnerability are deeply connected, from a psychological perspective and from a stoic one. Emotions become most difficult to conceal when someone is trying the hardest to appear unaffected. She doesn't want to risk rejection. She doesn't want to lose her dignity. So instead of confessing her feelings, she'll communicate through behavior, hoping you'll understand what she refuses to say. You will never receive a message saying, "I've been thinking about you all day." You won't get a phone call where she openly admits, "I really like you." That's rarely how genuine attraction unfolds. Instead, you'll notice lingering eye contact, conversations that somehow keep finding their way back to you. Moments where she moves closer, then suddenly creates distance again. To the untrained man, these feel like mixed signals, but to the man who understands female psychology, they're often signs of internal conflict, not lack of interest. Here's what most men never realize. Women fear rejection too. They worry about appearing too eager, too available, too easy to read. So rather than making the first move directly, she'll quietly test your awareness. She'll offer small opportunities for you to step forward, then watch how you respond. Miss those moments, and you'll convince yourself she was only being friendly. Worse still, she'll convince herself you were never interested, and both of you walk away believing a story that was never true. This is exactly why perception is one of a man's greatest advantages. Stoicism teaches that those who observe carefully, instead of reacting impulsively, notice patterns that everyone else overlooks. Attraction is no different. The strongest signals are rarely the loudest ones. In this video, I'm going to show you the behaviors women display when they're genuinely attracted to you, but are deliberately trying not to make it obvious. Once you understand these patterns, you'll stop chasing certainty and start recognizing interest before words are ever spoken. Pay close attention. She may already be telling you exactly how she feels, without saying a single word. Let's break it down. Number 1, she runs hot and cold. And if you've ever been genuinely interested in a woman, chances are you've already lived through this without even realizing what was happening. One day she's laughing at everything you say, holding eye contact just a little longer than necessary, finding excuses to keep the conversation alive. Then suddenly, it's like someone flipped a switch. Her replies become short. She seems distant. She barely acknowledges you. That's usually the moment most men make a fatal mistake. They tell themselves, "I guess she lost interest." So they either chase harder or they disappear completely. Both reactions come from emotion, not perception. Here's what most men never understand. A woman who's emotionally invested isn't always the woman who's emotionally consistent. In fact, when the attraction feels real, that's often when her behavior becomes the most unpredictable. Why? Because she's caught between two instincts fighting each other. One part of her wants to know if you're the kind of man worth letting into her world. The other part is terrified of looking too available, too easy, too emotionally exposed. In today's dating world, vulnerability often feels like handing someone a weapon. So she leans in, then she pulls away. Not necessarily to manipulate you, but to protect herself from moving faster than her emotions can handle. I've watched men destroy their own chances because they couldn't tolerate that uncertainty. The moment she became colder, they flooded her with attention, double-texted, over-explained themselves, almost begging for reassurance. Ironically, that's usually the exact moment attraction starts to die. A grounded man responds differently. He doesn't punish her distance, and he doesn't reward it either. He stays exactly where he was, calm, composed, unmoved. When she becomes warm again, he welcomes it naturally, without acting like he's been starving for it. That emotional stability communicates something words never could. I'm not controlled by your mood, and that's rare. So before you assume she's playing games, ask yourself a better question. When she's distant, does she still steal quick glances when she thinks you're not looking? Does she still find reasons to stay close? Does her coldness feel nervous rather than indifferent? Those details matter. A woman with no interest doesn't create confusion. She creates silence. She disappears. She stops investing altogether. But when she keeps moving closer, then pulling back, there's usually an internal battle taking place. One side of her wants to surrender to the attraction. The other side is trying to slow her own heart down before it gets hurt. Your role isn't to chase that conflict. Your role is to remain steady enough that she no longer feels the need to hide from it. Number 2, she's always around. And this is one of the easiest signs to dismiss because it never feels dramatic. Most men expect attraction to announce itself. They wait for obvious flirting, bold compliments, clear invitations. Real life doesn't work like that. A woman who's trying to hide her feelings rarely reveals them with words. She reveals them with proximity. Think about it. Somehow, she keeps appearing where you are. She lingers after everyone else has left. She finds small reasons to join conversations you're already having. Maybe she walks past you more often than she needs to. Maybe she always seems to be somewhere within your field of vision. Coincidence? Maybe once. But patterns never lie. I've learned something over the years. People naturally move toward what pulls them emotionally. They don't even realize they're doing it half the time, and women are no exception. She isn't going to walk over and say, "I came here because I wanted to see you." That would expose her. Instead, she gives you access. She places herself close enough that you can decide whether to open the next door. That's where most men completely misread the situation. They assume she's just friendly. They convince themselves they're imagining it, or worse. They do absolutely nothing because they're waiting for certainty. And while they're waiting, the opportunity quietly expires. A woman can only leave the door unlocked for so long before she closes it and walks away. Watch her patterns instead of her words. Did she remember a place you casually mentioned weeks ago? Does she somehow end up at the same social events? Does she create tiny conversations that could have easily been avoided? Those aren't grand gestures. They're calculated risks, safe enough to protect her pride, clear enough for an observant man to recognize. A woman with no attraction doesn't create opportunities for repeated proximity. She keeps interactions efficient, respectful, predictable, but when she keeps finding reasons to remain within your orbit, she's giving you something far more valuable than attention. She's giving you access. So what should you do? Stay composed. Acknowledge her presence without acting like you've been waiting for it. Hold eye contact a second longer. Speak with confidence. Let her feel that you've noticed, without making her feel she's won your validation. That balance matters, because women are constantly reading emotional strength, not just words. Ignore her completely, and she'll eventually assume you're either uninterested or too passive to lead. Overreact, and she'll feel the mystery disappear. The man who stands out is the one who notices, without chasing. Remember this, she isn't trying to catch you. She's trying to see if you're aware enough, confident enough, and emotionally grounded enough to notice the invitation she never had to put into words. Number 3, she notices the things nobody else does. And this is where attraction quietly stops being random and starts becoming personal. Most men never catch this sign because they're waiting for something obvious, a compliment, a confession, a clear signal. But that's rarely how genuine interest reveals itself. A woman who's trying to hide her feelings won't announce them. She'll expose them through her attention. At first it feels insignificant. She casually mentions that you changed your watch. She notices you're wearing a different jacket. She asks if you got a haircut, even though almost nobody else noticed. Maybe she smiles and says your voice sounds different today. Small observations, big meaning. Here's the question most men never ask themselves. How can someone notice changes unless they've already memorized the original version of you? Think about that. People don't track details they don't care about. Their minds simply don't waste energy doing it. When a woman begins collecting little pieces of who you are, she's already investing attention long before she's willing to invest words. I've seen this happen more times than I can count. You're standing in a group, talking about something completely unrelated. Days pass, maybe even a week. Then out of nowhere, she brings up a sentence you barely remember saying. You forgot it. She didn't. Why? Because when emotions become involved, memory becomes selective. The things connected to you suddenly carry more weight than they should. That's attraction operating beneath the surface. Most guys ruin these moments immediately. The second they realize she's paying attention, they get excited. They call it out. Wow, you remembered that? And without noticing, they break the tension. A composed man doesn't need to expose the signal. He simply registers it and keeps moving. That quiet confidence creates something incredibly powerful. She starts wondering whether you noticed, whether you understood what she was trying to communicate, and why you weren't emotionally pulled by it. That uncertainty often becomes stronger than validation itself. Stoicism teaches that real strength isn't found in chasing every emotional impulse. It's found in observing, without becoming controlled by what you observe. That's exactly what's happening here. She hopes those little observations create a bridge between you. Your job isn't to sprint across it. It's to remain grounded enough that she willingly walks the rest of the way. So the next time she remembers your favorite drink, comments on a phrase you used weeks ago, or notices a subtle change that everyone else missed, don't dismiss it as casual conversation. Those details are rarely casual. They're often the safest way she can say, "I've been paying attention to you," without ever having to admit it. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, "How did she even notice that?" there's a good chance you weren't imagining it. Stay with me. Because the next sign explains why the men who do the least often leave the deepest impression. Number 4, jealousy always finds a way to escape. No matter how composed she tries to look, no matter how convincing the mask is, jealousy has a habit of exposing feelings she never intended you to see. She'll act unaffected. She'll smile. She'll keep her composure. She'll behave as if your life has nothing to do with hers. Then, almost without warning, she'll ask a question that feels strangely specific. "So, who were you talking to earlier? You seem pretty close to her. Were you with someone last night?" The words sound casual. The emotion behind them doesn't. Here's what most men fail to understand. Jealousy is rarely the beginning of attraction. It's the consequence of emotional investment. You don't become jealous of someone who means nothing to you. That's why this emotion is so difficult to fake, and even harder to hide. The interesting part is that she usually catches herself halfway through. She'll laugh it off, change the subject, tell you she's just curious. But pay attention to what happens next. Does she suddenly become quieter? Does she start watching your reactions more closely? Does her energy shift the moment another woman enters the picture? Those are emotional leaks, and emotional leaks tell the truth long before words ever do. I've watched this happen countless times. A man is simply talking to another woman, nothing flirtatious, nothing inappropriate. He's relaxed, present, completely unaware. Meanwhile, across the room, someone who claimed she doesn't care keeps glancing over. Her smile fades for a second. She interrupts the conversation with a playful remark that isn't really playful. She starts comparing herself without ever admitting she's comparing herself. That's not coincidence. That's competition quietly revealing itself. Most men sabotage themselves right here. The insecure man rushes to explain. He apologizes for something that didn't need an apology. Or worse, he tries to amplify her jealousy because it makes him feel powerful. Both reactions reveal the same thing. He's emotionally dependent on her response. A grounded man does something completely different. He doesn't feed the tension, and he doesn't run from it. He simply remains the same man he was 5 minutes earlier, calm, relaxed, unaffected, because real confidence doesn't need to win emotional battles. It refuses to enter them. That's one of the quiet lessons Stoicism teaches. You cannot control another person's emotions, only your own response to them. And ironically, that's exactly what makes your presence so difficult to shake. When she notices that another woman's attention doesn't inflate your ego, and her jealousy doesn't disturb your frame, something changes inside her. The emotional pressure shifts back onto her. Now she's left wondering where she stands. That's when you'll hear subtle comments like, "I bet women are always trying to get your attention." Listen carefully. That's rarely a compliment. It's often a question disguised as confidence. She's trying to measure her place in your world, without risking the vulnerability of asking directly. So don't rush to reassure her. Don't try to decode every sentence either. Just observe, because jealousy doesn't create attraction, but it often reveals attraction that was already there. And when a woman who's been hiding her feelings suddenly starts competing with women who don't even know they're in the race, You've learned something she may never say out loud. You're no longer just another man in the room. You've become someone she doesn't want to lose, even if she's still trying to convince herself she never wanted you in the first place. Number 5, she plays it safe. And this is probably the sign that confuses men more than any other, because if you only judge her by what she does, you'll convince yourself she's just being polite. She smiles. She laughs at your jokes. She enjoys talking to you, but every time the interaction gets close to becoming personal, she pulls it back just enough to stay safe. Have you ever met a woman who always seemed happy to see you, yet never gave you complete certainty? That's what this looks like. She isn't cold enough to disappear, and she isn't bold enough to make her feelings obvious. She lives in the space between the two. Why? Because certainty feels dangerous when your emotions are on the line. A woman who's genuinely attracted to you, but afraid of exposing it, rarely makes dramatic moves. She won't suddenly confess how she feels. She won't ask you out. Instead, she'll protect herself by keeping everything just ambiguous enough that, if she's rejected, she can tell herself it never meant anything. It's emotional self-preservation. You'll notice it in the smallest moments. She replies to your messages, but never seems too eager. She keeps conversations alive, yet lets you initiate the next step. She'll give you just enough warmth to keep the connection breathing, then step back before her emotions become too visible. I've seen men completely misread this. They mistake caution for indifference, or worse, they panic because they can't read certainty, so they start forcing it. They send more messages, they seek reassurance, they try to push the interaction somewhere it isn't ready to go. And that's usually the moment she retreats, not because she lost attraction, but because she lost emotional safety. A composed man understands something different. He doesn't need immediate answers. He understands that attraction grows best when neither person feels cornered. Stoicism teaches that strength isn't forcing outcomes, it's remaining steady while they unfold. That's exactly what separates a man who leads from a man who's chasing validation. Imagine she's standing on the edge of a frozen lake. One step brings her closer to you. One wrong step feels like emotional exposure. So she tests the surface. Slowly, a longer conversation today, a personal question tomorrow, an extra few minutes before saying goodbye. Every small step is her asking the same silent question: is this man emotionally safe, or will I regret letting him get closer? Your behavior answers that question long before your words ever do. Stay calm. Don't rush her uncertainty. Don't punish it either. Simply remain consistent, because the more stable your presence becomes, the less she feels the need to protect herself from it. Eventually, something changes. Her curiosity becomes stronger than her caution. Her desire outweighs her fear. The walls she built so carefully begin to lower, not because you demanded access, but because your composure quietly earned her trust. Remember this: playing it safe isn't always the absence of attraction. Sometimes, it's exactly what attraction looks like before courage catches up with it. And the man who understands that rarely needs to chase. He simply stays grounded, while everyone else loses patience. Number 6, she's nervous, but she doesn't leave. And if you only know how to read confidence, you'll completely miss what's really happening. Most men expect attraction to look smooth. They expect effortless flirting, playful touching, perfect eye contact. But real attraction, especially when it's genuine, is often messy. Have you ever noticed a woman who suddenly became quieter around you, stumbled over her words, laughed at the wrong moment, or looked away the second your eyes met hers? Most guys assume she's uncomfortable because she isn't interested. Sometimes, it's the exact opposite. Here's something I've learned. Women who feel nothing around you don't become nervous. They become distracted. They check their phone. Their attention drifts. They're already thinking about where they'd rather be. But a woman who's emotionally affected by your presence behaves differently. She stays, even when she's visibly fighting herself. She asks a question, then second guesses whether she should have asked it. She starts telling a story, then suddenly changes the subject. She moves closer, then catches herself and creates a little distance again. That's not confidence. That's internal conflict. One side of her wants to connect. The other side is terrified of revealing too much. And the fact that she stays despite that battle tells you far more than flawless flirting ever could. Most men ruin these moments without even realizing it. The silence makes them uncomfortable, so they rush to fill it. They start talking too much, trying too hard, chasing laughs, chasing approval, chasing certainty. But calm men understand something different. Not every silence needs to be rescued. Sometimes, silence is where attraction quietly grows. Marcus Aurelius wrote about remaining steady when emotions try to pull you away from yourself. That's exactly what's required here. Imagine the two of you sitting together after everyone else has walked away. She fidgets with the edge of her glass. She looks at you, then looks away. For a few seconds, neither of you says anything. Most men panic. A grounded man simply breathes. He lets the moment exist. And something interesting happens. The longer you remain relaxed, the safer she begins to feel. Your calm becomes permission for her nervous system to slow down. She realizes she doesn't have to perform around you. She doesn't have to impress you. She can simply be present. That's a feeling very few men know how to create, because emotional strength isn't measured by how loudly you speak. It's measured by how peaceful people feel standing next to you. Remember, attraction isn't always loud. Sometimes it's hidden behind restless hands, hesitant smiles, and conversations that almost happened. So don't judge her by how confident she looks. Judge her by something much more revealing. Does she keep choosing to stay, even when she's clearly feeling something she can't fully control? If the answer is yes, pay attention, because presence is expensive. People don't invest their time, their attention, and their emotional energy where they feel nothing. And when a woman keeps showing up despite the butterflies, despite the overthinking, despite the risk of being emotionally exposed, she's telling you something her words still aren't ready to admit. The strongest men don't rush that moment. They simply remain still enough for the truth to reveal itself. Number 7. Her friends know before you do. And that's exactly why you should never ignore the people around her. Here's something most men never notice. A woman can hide her feelings from you, but hiding them from her closest friends, that's a completely different battle. Think about it. Who hears about the guy she keeps thinking about? Who notices the smile she tries to suppress after seeing your name on her phone? Who listens while she says, "It's nothing," even though she keeps bringing you up? Her friends do. And here's the interesting part. They're usually much worse at keeping the secret than she is. I've seen this happen countless times. You're having a completely normal conversation, and one of her friends suddenly says something like, "So, we've heard a lot about you." Then everyone laughs, including her. Except her laugh sounds just a little too nervous. Or someone jokingly asks, "Are you finally going to talk to him?" The room goes quiet for a second. She rolls her eyes, tells them to stop, but notice what she doesn't say. She doesn't deny it. That's the detail most men miss. When attraction is being hidden, the truth often slips out through the people closest to her. Why? Because emotional pressure always looks for an exit. Sometimes, that exit isn't her mouth, it's theirs. A grounded man doesn't overreact when this happens. He doesn't grin like he just won a prize. He doesn't immediately assume the attraction is guaranteed. He simply observes, smiles, keeps his composure. Stoicism teaches that information has value only when you know how to carry it. The moment you become emotionally intoxicated by what you've learned, you've already given away your leverage. Imagine you're at a gathering. Her friends keep looking in your direction, whispering, laughing, then suddenly stopping when you make eye contact. Most men either panic or perform. The composed man does neither. He continues the conversation exactly as he was before. That quiet confidence creates something powerful. Now they're no longer watching to see whether you noticed. They're wondering why you weren't shaken by it, and that curiosity spreads. Here's another layer almost nobody talks about. Sometimes her friends aren't teasing you. They're evaluating you. They're watching how you treat people, how you handle attention, whether you're emotionally disciplined or just another man desperate for validation. You're being observed long before you're being chosen. Remember that. So if her friends keep dropping little hints, teasing her around you, creating opportunities for you to interact, don't chase the moment. Read it. Stay grounded, because when a woman allows her social circle to orbit around the possibility of you, she's already invested more than she's willing to admit. Now she's waiting for one thing, to see whether you're the kind of man who needs constant reassurance or the kind of man who already carries himself like he belongs. That answer speaks louder than anything you could ever say. Number 8. She starts becoming your reflection without even realizing it. And this might be one of the most fascinating signs of attraction, because it happens before she consciously decides to let you in. Most people think attraction is something you hear, a compliment, a confession, a flirtatious remark. But long before attraction reaches the lips, it usually appears in the body. Picture this. You're sitting back, completely relaxed, arms folded, speaking slowly, unhurried. A few minutes later, she shifts into a similar posture. You take a sip of your drink. Moments later, so does she. Your voice stays calm, and somehow, hers begins to soften too. Coincidence? Not likely. That's mirroring, one of the oldest psychological bonding mechanisms we have. And the beautiful part is, it's incredibly difficult to fake. People naturally begin matching the rhythm of those they feel emotionally drawn toward, not because they decide to, but because the nervous system quietly searches for connection before the mind catches up. I've noticed this countless times. The woman who insists she's just being friendly somehow starts using the same expressions you use. She laughs a little longer when you laugh. She even picks up your pace of speaking without realizing she's doing it. That's when you know you're no longer just occupying her attention. You're influencing her emotional state. This is why a composed man pays more attention to patterns than to words. Words can be rehearsed. The body rarely rehearses honesty. Stoicism teaches that a man who is firmly rooted in himself naturally becomes a point of stability for others. And that's exactly what's happening here. You're not adapting to her energy. She's gradually adapting to yours. Not because you're trying to dominate her, because emotional certainty has gravity. People instinctively settle into the presence of someone who isn't constantly seeking approval. Think about the men who always try to impress. They speak louder, move faster, laugh harder. They're constantly adjusting themselves, hoping to earn attention. The grounded man does the opposite. He doesn't perform, he remains. And that stillness quietly invites other people to synchronize with him. That's real presence. Now here's where most men sabotage everything. The moment they notice she's mirroring them, they become self-conscious. They start testing it, changing their posture on purpose, speaking differently, trying to prove the attraction. The second they do that, they stop leading and start performing. Don't. Simply notice it and let it happen. The less attached you are to receiving confirmation, the more naturally attraction unfolds. Because mirroring isn't about winning a psychological game. It's about witnessing genuine emotional alignment before either of you has found the courage to admit it. So the next time you're with her, don't just listen to what she says. Watch her timing, watch her posture, watch the subtle moments when her energy quietly falls into step with yours. Those silent echoes often reveal more than any confession ever could. Sometimes, the strongest attraction isn't spoken, it's reflected. And the man who understands that never needs constant reassurance to know exactly where he stands. Number 9. She acts completely unaffected, but her eyes refuse to cooperate. And if there's one place where hidden attraction almost always slips through, it's there. She walks into the room like nothing has changed. Her voice is steady, her posture is controlled. She smiles politely, talks to other people, maybe even acts as if you barely crossed her mind. To everyone else, she looks perfectly composed. Then it happens. For a split second, your eyes meet. She holds your gaze just a little longer than someone who's not interested usually would. Or she looks away so quickly it almost feels like she got caught doing something she wasn't supposed to do. That tiny moment tells a much bigger story than any conversation ever could. Here's what most men don't understand. People can rehearse words. They can rehearse confidence. They can rehearse indifference, but the eyes react before the mind has time to build the mask. That's why I pay far more attention to where she's looking than to what she's saying. I've seen women spend an entire evening pretending another man meant nothing to them, only to catch themselves watching him every time he laughed with someone else. Not because they wanted to, because they couldn't help it. Attention always follows emotional investment. That's one of the oldest psychological truths there is. A woman who feels nothing doesn't keep searching for you across the room. She doesn't subconsciously check whether you've noticed her. She doesn't steal one last glance as she's walking away. She simply moves on. But when attraction is fighting with pride, the eyes become the battlefield. One part of her wants to stay hidden. The other keeps giving her away. Stoicism teaches that the strongest observer is the one who isn't desperate to confirm his assumptions. That's your advantage. You don't stare. You don't test her. You don't force eye contact hoping to prove something. You simply notice and continue being exactly who you were before. That quiet restraint creates something surprisingly powerful. She starts wondering whether you noticed, whether you understood, whether you're choosing not to react, or whether you're simply unaffected. That uncertainty often becomes louder than any compliment you could ever give her. Most men sabotage themselves right here. The moment they catch prolonged eye contact, they rush to smile, flirt, or seek reassurance. Suddenly the mystery disappears. The emotional pressure shifts away from her and lands on them. Don't make that mistake. Hold your frame. Let the silence exist, because the man who's comfortable saying nothing often says the most. So the next time you're around her, don't obsess over every word that comes out of her mouth. Watch the moments between the words. Watch where her eyes return when she forgets she's being watched. Because people can hide attraction with their voice. They can hide it with their posture. They can even hide it behind pride. But eventually, the eyes stop following the script. And when they keep searching for you, long after she's pretending she isn't, you've just witnessed the confession she'll probably never say out loud. Number 10. She pretends she doesn't want you, hoping you'll be the one who breaks first. And this is where more men lose their composure than anywhere else. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched a woman suddenly become distant, right after everything seemed to be going well? The conversations were effortless. The eye contact was there. The chemistry was obvious. Then, almost overnight, she became colder. Short replies, longer gaps between messages, less emotion. Most men see that change and immediately assume they're losing her. So they do exactly what their emotions tell them to do. They chase. They send another message. They ask if something's wrong. They try harder. Without realizing it, they've already walked into the trap. Here's what many men fail to understand. Sometimes distance isn't the absence of attraction. It's uncertainty searching for reassurance. A woman who's emotionally invested may pull back, not because she wants to end the connection, but because she wants to know how much space she occupies in your mind. She wonders, if I disappear for a while, will he come looking for me? That question isn't always manipulation. Sometimes it's fear wearing the mask of control. Sometimes it's pride refusing to risk rejection first. Either way, your response determines everything. An impulsive man reacts to her silence. A grounded man observes it. That's the difference. Stoicism teaches that your greatest strength isn't controlling other people's behavior. It's refusing to let their behavior control yours. That lesson becomes priceless in moments like these. I've seen men destroy genuine attraction because they couldn't tolerate uncertainty for 48 hours. They flooded her phone, over-explained themselves, started performing for attention that had already been freely given before. The irony? The harder they chased certainty, the further certainty moved away. A man with emotional discipline responds differently. He doesn't punish her distance. He doesn't reward it either. He simply continues building his own life. His purpose doesn't disappear because someone became emotionally inconsistent. His peace doesn't depend on a notification. That's real freedom. And ironically, freedom is attractive, because the moment she realizes her silence didn't shake your identity, something shifts inside her. Now she's the one wondering, why didn't he react? Did he lose interest? Is he simply that emotionally grounded? Curiosity quietly replaces certainty. The emotional pressure changes sides. Notice something important though. This isn't about trying to win against another person. It's about refusing to abandon your own standards just because someone else's emotions became unpredictable. That's what separates confidence from emotional dependence. Remember this. The strongest presence in any relationship is usually the person who doesn't need to force the outcome. He remains calm. He remains consistent. He remains himself. And whether she comes closer or chooses to walk away, he doesn't lose who he is. That's the real lesson, because the goal was never to make every woman chase you. The goal is to become the kind of man who never has to chase what isn't freely choosing him. That's the quiet power Stoicism offers. Not manipulation, not emotional games, but the discipline to remain steady in a world constantly trying to pull you off balance. And once you master that, you'll notice something surprising. You stop obsessing over whether a woman likes you, because your attention shifts to something far more valuable. becoming a man whose presence speaks long before he ever says a word. That's where real attraction begins. And unlike attention, that kind of presence can never be faked. If this video made you realize that attraction is often hidden, not absent, then prove you caught the message. Go down to the comments and write, "I read the signs." No explanation, no context, just those 4 words. Let's see how many men have learned to observe what everyone else keeps missing. Before you go, there's something I want you to think about. Today we talked about the hidden signs that reveal when a woman is trying not to show her attraction. But here's the question most men never ask. What happens after you recognize those signs? What should you do? And just as importantly, what should you never do? In tomorrow's video, I'm going to break down the biggest mistakes men make the moment a woman starts showing genuine interest, and why those mistakes quietly destroy attraction without them ever realizing it. If you think you understand the game now, wait until you see that. But for now, don't stop here. Click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now. It connects perfectly with what you learned today, and it'll show you the psychological mistake that makes women lose interest in men who seemed attractive just moments before. Watch that next, because it'll make everything from this video make even more sense. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next lesson. Most men will never understand the game, but you do. I'll see you among the few.